ad that hasn't been said already. But if you want to know my opinion on Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, here you go. And if you want to help me out because YouTube's just boning a lot of people right now, if you're subscribed to me, also click that little bell icon because apparently that's how you see my videos. Because YouTube's like, just because you're subscribed doesn't really mean you want to watch them, right? Paraphrasing, that's the gist. So you've probably heard that from a lot of YouTubers. A lot of people are saying that, but that's because they have to. We have to. That out of the way, let's talk about Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild came out for the Wii U and the Switch. It was a port to the Switch from the Wii U because Wii U was just losing momentum and they were like, all right, we're gonna put that for our new system. Pretty sweet launch title. But I was like, I'm gonna hold out on the Switch because, well, I bought a Wii U. I fell for that shit before. We'll see how it goes. So I got Breath of the Wild for the Wii U and played it. Played a lot of it. What I love about this game is after Link wakes up, he's like, I have amnesia. And this dude's like, well, Calamity Ganon has taken over Hyrule Castle. And then you have a tutorial that doesn't really feel like a tutorial. I can't praise this game enough. Tutorials are ball-numbingly boring. This tutorial didn't feel like a tutorial. Generally speaking, you do everything in the tutorial area that you do out there. I mean, well, most things anyway. It's a smaller sandbox of the bigger sandbox. The biggest things you do is you do find these abilities that stick with you throughout the game. Bombs, square bombs that don't roll down hills. One turns you into Magneto. The other stops time for an item so you can beat the piss out of it, and then all the energy transfers to it immediately and it just flies. You can later upgrade these items to be a little more effective. Point is, most shrines you run across that have puzzles deal with these abilities or the bow and arrow. Might use the bow and arrow. After that, have fun. The world is your oyster. You can do anything and go anywhere. You can actually go straight to Hyrule Castle and take on Calamity Ganon immediately. You beat the game within like an hour. In most cases, if you try that, you will get your dick kicked in up through your throat, but you can try it. Point is, the execution of the tutorial deserves props. And though the game does herd you in certain directions, like, hey, go here, the Zora stuff, you don't have to go there. My brother was like, I did Death Mountain first. I don't know how he did that, but he did. See, the 4 divine beasts you go into in this game, they do serve as Zelda dungeons, but there are only 4 of them. And at first I was like, 4 dungeons, that's it? You got to just find these shrines and then solve the puzzles of the shrines? At first, knee-jerk reaction, I just didn't like that. I like the traditional Zelda dungeons. I felt like that was just taken away from me. I'm like, you took away the puzzle element. But they actually didn't take away the puzzle element if you take a beat and you just kind of think about it. Because really, if you look at the Zelda dungeons are a series of puzzles that work together in tandem to create one big dungeon. They just took those dungeons with all those puzzles and individualize the puzzles and spread them around Hyrule, and now there's shrines you gotta look for. You still have the puzzle element with the shrines, you just have to search for them more. Sometimes the puzzle is just finding the shrine because some of these shrines are hard to find. With every shrine you beat, you get a spirit orb, you get 4 of those spirit orbs, you get a heart container. And I can't really overemphasize how fun it is to search for shrines. So many days I just found myself for hours walking around the landscape of Hyrule looking for shrines because I look at my map, I'm like, there's no shrine there. There probably is though. I haven't mapped it, so let's go find it. In terms of battle is actually pretty familiar. Lock onto the enemy, dodge right, dodge left, flip backwards, swing your sword normal. I mean, the moves are pretty much the same. If an enemy's gonna hit at you, if you dodge at the right time, it'll slow down. You can just do a flurry and just beat the smack out of them. Finding that sweet moment is pretty important in beating the hard enemies. I mean, you get the patterns down, so really they're not a problem now. At first when you meet a Lionel though. In terms of battle, I felt like some of the enemies were being punks. We'll take the Lionel for example. Probably Lionel, but I call them Lionel, like Lionel. So I ended up calling them Lionel Luthers when I saw them. Point is, when you get their charges down, the dodging down, what they'll do is they'll run past you and the camera swings around to where now you probably need to hold back in order to jump for the next attack, but back is no longer back. It's actually the camera's kind of askew, so back is left. And then you get smacked because you don't dodge correctly. I felt like the computer was using the camera trickery as a trick to get a hit off on me, and I felt like that was kind of punk. Biggest difference is the shields, swords, bows that you find, they break. You use them enough, it'll take damage. They take damage, they will break. So when you beat an enemy, pick up their weapon. You need a lot of swords, you need a lot of shields. Further the game goes on, you find more powerful swords and shields, and you always run into that feeling of, if only I had one more slot. You do find these little Koroks, there are hundreds of them in this world. But you can trade in their seeds, get more slots for a sword, shield, or bow. I ended up with a lot of weapon slots, and I always ran into that feeling. If only I had one more. Because like anything, financial income, days of the week, you adapt. It always feels like you don't have enough days in the week to do what you need to do, no matter how many days you actually have to do do it. Human beings are very good at adapting to making sure they don't actually end up having an excess of anything they probably need an excess of. You also have armored-based buffs, outfit buffs, whether it be you have to have your gear for cold when you're climbing the mountains, or your gear to cool down when you're in the desert, or your gear for battle, or maybe the gear you have just looks cool and you just like the aesthetic appeal of it, so you just want to wear it. I like the fact that Link isn't locked into one outfit. There are a lot more heart containers in this game because you're actually probably the weakest, well, weakest Link, didn't mean to. But Link can't take as many hits in this game as he usually can. So it's very important to buff up your armor or learn to dodge. Cooking is a very important thing in here. You get different meats, seasonings, mushrooms, apples. I've said mushrooms, I hate mushrooms. But for this game, mushrooms work for a filler. And you cook them and you get a meal that'll replenish hearts. And that's all fine and dandy, but if you're just looking for hearts, you just get a hearty radish and cook one of those and just one hearty radish, and you'll get a meal that will replenish all your hearts plus 3. But you need stamina? That's fine. Endura carrot does the same thing. You cook one Endura carrot, it's fine. Really, cooking comes into play if you need armor buffs or attack buffs. That's where the cooking recipes come in. So for hearts, once you get hearty radishes, which is also about the first fairy fountain, there's one right over there in the corner. Every time you go there, you can just pluck it. I felt like the fun of cooking lost its luster. I was like, all right, I know what I need. I do feel like the music in this game left me a little wanting. I was looking forward to some of the Zelda themes playing while I was out there on my adventure. The music is really ambient music, and it does totally work for the sake of ambiance. But I can't really think of any themes in this game. The dun dun da 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 da. I can't think of that. Like if they were to come out with another anniversary mix CD like they did with Skyward Sword, I don't know any songs from this game that I would want in that CD. When you're raiding Hyrule Castle, the theme is pretty sweet, and you do hear some of the Zelda theme in there. Also, you hear some inspiration and variants of older Zelda music throughout in places. When you're hanging out in Death Mountain, that song is actually the last dungeon in the original Zelda. Oh, you just listen to it, it's the same thing? So I do like that there are variants, but there was no theme that really got my blood jacked. Maybe in one of the patches you can unlock music or something. But I cannot speak highly enough of the game's layout. Just the geographical appeal. You look around this world, it is alive. The draw distance literally seems like it goes from one end of a Hyrule to the other. So often I had so much fun just running around searching for stuff. Maybe I was searching for a shrine. Maybe I was searching for a memory. I'll get to memories in a second. But any open world game that can genuinely make your experience in the world fun for the sake of just being in the world, that's the win right there. You don't want your game to feel like a grind, and Breath of the Wild never felt like a grind to me. It is a completionist paradise. I'm not even a completionist. Yeah, the memories are a very important thing. There are these memories in your Sheikah Slate, which is pretty much your cell phone, and there are pictures of locations. You have to find these locations that these pictures were taken. You go there and it'll unlock a memory of what happened 100 years ago. Link's friendship with Zelda, what happened, how they lost. Without you finding the memories, the story really does leave you wanting, because there's not a story. But I was just really impressed at how I could look at this picture and be like, all right, well, those are the Garuda Mountains right there. That means that's that forest, which means that part is probably somewhere around there. So let's look around. Oh, wow, I found it. Every picture I was able to look at and be like, all right, let's figure out where it is. And I figured it out. It's because the makers of this game made a world that feels very different based on the regions. If I was to look at a picture from a part of most any open world game, I'd be like, I don't know exactly where that is. But for Breath of the Wild, it's doable. Except that picture, because it's one forest and whatever. I googled it. It's one part of one forest. You know how many forests there are in this game? Really, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is the Zelda game that pushes the Legend of Zelda forward. It pushes it to the next level. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to unlock, a lot to unpack, a lot to upgrade, a lot to search for, a lot to find. However, the game is not too overly complicated. Breath of the Wild never felt daunting. It always encouraged me to go further. It's not excessively complicated. It's accessible yet complex. This game was 85 hours of pure enjoyment, and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is awesome-tacular. And that is just for the Wii U. So after I beat Breath of the Wild, I got a Switch the next day. Since I had a Switch, I was like, I might as well get Breath of the Wild for the Switch. And I literally replayed it again the day after I had beaten Breath of the Wild for my Wii U. The fun, the adventure, the weapons, the outfits, the gear, the upgrades, all the cooking recipes or the hearty radishes, the shrines, the divine beasts, the hours, the days put into it, all happened again. In fact, on my Switch, I have more than I actually had on my Wii U. I played it again immediately back to back. Breath of the Wild made me feel like a kid again. It made me feel like I was on an adventure in a way very few games these days do. So if you haven't picked it up yet, I encourage you to. If you have picked it up, if you've played it, if you've beaten it, if you have completed all of it, props to you. And I hope you're having fun. All right, so Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Have you played it? What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more. And again, if you can, after subscribing, click that bell icon. Why does YouTube gotta mess with a good thing? That'll help.